Hey guys, Marcus Kakin from Blindside Football, back to give you some more GPP picks. First, I want to apologize for not putting out this video last week. Had some things come up, got a little busy, didn't have a chance to do it, but I've done more than enough homework for you this week. I actually myself have finally decided to cash in all of my DraftKings Millionaire Maker tickets, so I'm going heavy into the Million Maker tournament this weekend, so I put in a lot of studying into my GPP picks this week. So let's get right into it. Starting at quarterback, starting off with some really low-priced quarterbacks to try to get that really low percentage for the Million Maker tournament. Starting off with my man Brian Hoyer, who's one of my top picks in that $5,000 to $6,000 range. Going up against Miami, he's actually been a top 12 fantasy quarterback each of the last 3 weeks, despite only starting one of those games. That's how good he's been, guys. 2 or more touchdown passes in all 3 games. Each of the last 2 essentially over 300 yards. I think he'll do well against this Miami team that actually has allowed a high net expected point total per play, passing-wise, per number fire metrics. So I think he'll do well, again, in the passing game against Miami here. Next up, Josh McCown. A lot of people are off of him, and I'm not sure why. There's been a ton of volume for him, averaging almost 50 pass attempts a game. This guy is just throwing the ball like crazy. 2 touchdowns in every game as a starter, including 2 last week against a very tough Broncos secondary. I think he'll do all right this weekend. I know it's another tough matchup against St. Louis, but I don't think it's as tough as everybody's making it out to be. And then finally, my last quarterback on my list here, Matthew Stafford. Had a great game last week against Chicago, and I think some of us saw that coming because of the Chicago matchup. But I think we've been a little too hard on Matthew Stafford this year. If you go back and look at his game log, yes, he's had some terrible games, but they've been against really good secondaries and really good defenses overall. I'm talking about Denver, Seattle, Arizona, really hard teams to pass against. I think last week was the confidence boost he needed, and this week gets to play at home, where historically he's been a lot better. And again, he played Minnesota in week 2 and wasn't so bad. I think it was like 280 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. So I think he's another great GPP candidate that you're getting for almost min salary. I'm on Matthew Stafford this week. Running backs, I got a lot of them, so let's start off with Latavius Murray. I'm surprised how low owned this guy was in my Thursday night tournaments on FanDuel, around 6% owned, and I can't really get it because San Diego has allowed a top 10 running back every week this year. Every single week, top 10 running back. Latavius Murray, a lot of people are off him because, number 1, coming off the bye, so he's a little bit of a forgotten man. And the 2 weeks before that really wasn't producing that well, but I think the matchup is going to help him get back on his feet. Not exactly the game script you'd like either. He does have a negative game script here. He's a road team. He's an underdog, but he's heavily involved in the passing game, so I think he's going to get a ton of touches in this game and put up great fantasy numbers. Next up, Lamar Miller, another guy I'm really surprised is so low owned in those Thursday night tournaments. Now, here's another guy, almost a flip side of Murray. He's got a positive game script. He's at home, favored at home considerably. And, the interim head coach, Dan Campbell, seems to want to do what Philbin didn't want to do, which is hand the ball off to him. Last week we saw 19 carries for Lamar Miller. And historically, Lamar Miller, when given 19 or more carries, has averaged 19.8 DraftKings points, 18.8 FanDuel points. You know what? I think he gets those 19 carries again this week, guys. Like I said, positive game script, at home. You couldn't ask for much more, especially with that low ownership. Another guy right in that same price range as these guys, Doug Martin, 300 total yards and 4 touchdowns in the 2 previous games. Coming off a bye week, a lot of people aren't going to remember what he did in those 2 previous games, as shown by his ownership percentages on those Thursday night games. And he's going up against a Washington team that over the last 2 weeks has been gashed. So Doug Martin, I'm on him. A lot of people are forgetting about him. And Washington defense not as good as they thought. Finally, a very boomer bust play here, but Matt Jones of the Washington Redskins was hurt last week, didn't play, near min salary, has been their goal line back, and it's been announced that he will get the 3rd down work for them because it's looking like Chris Thompson is going to miss this game. Chris Thompson, a guy that was getting 31 targets over the last 4 games. If those get shifted to Matt Jones's way, especially on a site like DraftKings where you get a full PPR, that's very, very valuable. Like I said, near min salary, all those potential receptions on a PPR league. I mean, there's all the potential in the world for him to bust through, easily get 5 times his salary. And who knows, maybe he gets more touches in the running game as well. Alfred Morris just 2.8 yards per carry over the last 4 weeks. Wide receivers, let's start off with Willie Snead. This New Orleans-Indianapolis game has the highest over-under of the week. I expect Vontae Davis to be on probably Brandon Cooks, but definitely not Willie Snead. And typically, slot receivers against the Colts have done very well this year. So Willie Snead, a great GPP play this week. Another guy that you could see 20 fantasy points from and get that 5 times value on DraftKings. Nate Washington, a guy that's very close to min salary on a lot of sites. He's coming back from injury this week, just in time too, because Cecil Shorts is out of this game. Washington was a guy that was averaging over 9 targets per game previously when Shorts was on the field. Now you're taking Shorts off the field. There's more targets to go around. God, you're telling me I can get a close to min salary guy that's going to get 9 targets a game? Sounds like a great GPP play to me. Tight ends, I got a pair of tight ends for you. Everybody is on Antonio Gates this week. Thursday night GPPs, he was 28.8% owned. So you know what? I'm looking at his teammate, Ladarius Green. We all know how bad the Oakland Raiders are against the tight end. But, Gates dealing with the sprained MCL seems to be up in the air. But even if Gates plays, I like Green. Green is a guy that has hit 5 times value in DraftKings in every game this season except for one. The one game he didn't, he missed that 5 times value by just a single point. So this is a guy that's been producing relative to his salary all year. I gotta like him here. I mean, like I said, if Gates misses this game, even better. But even if Gates is in the game, I think he's going to get his work. And there's always that chance that that knee issue could re-aggravate and Gates could sit this one out. Next up, Travis Kelce. Again, kind of a pivot from Gates, but Pittsburgh is allowing the 3rd most fantasy points to tight ends this season. Maclin is questionable in this one, still dealing with his concussion issues. So the offense has to go through somebody. No Jamal Charles, potentially no Maclin. It's going to be Travis Kelce. He is going to be the focal point of this offense, going to get a ton of targets, both in the red zone and in between the 20s. Great pivot from Antonio Gates. Thanks again, guys, for watching. Make sure to check out Blindside Football for my cash game lineups and all the other great content. And good luck this weekend.